Welcome to the Magnetic Creator Podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Mishler, and each week we have intimate conversations about the things that matter most in life. My superpower is helping you remember who you truly are, a powerful, magical creator. I give you proven tools to help you get unstuck and manifest a life that sets your heart on fucking fire. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friend. I had a new podcast episode to record for you this week, but as you can hear, I'm really sick. I'm laying in bed, and if I talk for more than a couple of minutes, I start coughing really bad. So I know you don't want to hear that. So instead, I'm going to share with you an audio training that I recorded a few weeks ago on the still space of manifestation. It's a really powerful training about that in-between time, the time when you've set your intention, you know what you're creating, but nothing's quite showing up yet. It's a really powerful time. And so I hope you'll enjoy this training, and I'll be back next week with a new episode for you. Enjoy. Hello, my beautiful friend. I'm so glad you're here joining me for this special audio training. Today, we're going to dive into something that absolutely everyone experiences at some point throughout their transformational journey. And whether you call it setting goals, manifesting, creating a vision for your life, it's all the same but different. And today what we're talking about is that space between where you currently are and where you want to be. You know, it's that phase where you've set your vision, you're doing the work, but the external world hasn't quite caught up with your internal knowing. And maybe you're constantly showing up with your visualizations, you're taking aligned action, and yet there's still this gap between your vision and your current reality, and it can feel overwhelming at times. In fact, it can feel like your current reality and your desires are oceans away. And it's in this space where it's really easy to get discouraged, to start questioning everything, wondering if maybe you dream too big, maybe this wasn't right for you, things like that. But here's the thing, friend. If you're in that space right now, you're not off track. You're in what I call the still space of your transformation. And honestly, I guess I probably shouldn't call it the still space because there's actually nothing still about it. It's very, very active. And understanding this phase will change everything for you. So let me explain this with some analogies, which you know I love, to help this make more sense. I want you to think about what happens when you plant a seed. After you plant the seed, from the surface, you see nothing but dirt for quite some time. It looks like nothing's happening, and yet beneath the surface, there is so much happening. The seed is actively splitting open, it's sending down roots, it's gathering nutrients, and it's building the foundation it needs before it can sprout and break through the soil. And that's exactly what's happening during your still space. On the surface, it might feel like nothing's changing. Maybe you're still at the same job. Maybe you still have the same relationship status or the same amount of money in your bank. Yet beneath the surface, there's some massive reconstruction happening. And the same thing happens inside a chrysalis. You know, most people think that a caterpillar just goes in and grows wings and then emerges as a butterfly. But what actually happens is way more intense. And you might not know this. I know I was actually surprised to learn this because I wasn't taught this in elementary school, but a caterpillar completely dissolves itself into liquid. And when it does this, it releases like this hidden information that's stored in their cells. And the information had been there all along in a caterpillar, but first it has to become like a cellular soup. And then it completely reconstructs itself into something new. It has a new digestive system, new organs, new everything from the original caterpillar. And on the outside, when you look at a chrysalis, it looks still. It looks like nothing's changing. But we know that on the inside is that total transformation happening. And here's the thing, is every transformation you've experienced has had this still space. The phase isn't just necessary, it's non-negotiable. Because just like that seed needs time to establish its root system before it can support growth above ground, you also need this time to build your foundation. And the key is understanding that in this still space where it might seem like nothing's happening is actually where everything is happening. It's not empty space. It's not waiting time. It's creation space. It's where your old self is completely dissolving and your new self emerges. During this time, you're actively becoming. You're unfolding, you're dismantling, you're shedding old layers and old beliefs, outdated habits, all of those old things that don't support your new way of being. So every time you choose your new version over your old patterns, or every time you hold your faith when you can't see evidence yet, or every time you take aligned action despite the lack of visible results, you're actively participating in your transformation. And I want you to think about this. The woman who has financial freedom, she has completely different beliefs, habits, and energy about money than someone who's stuck in lack. At the same time, the woman who is running a thriving business, she isn't the same person who used to doubt her every decision, who was stuck in lack. She's transformed into someone who naturally commands her worth and she shows up in her full power. These are two totally different ways of being, of showing up in the world. And it's important that we honor this in-between space, because we don't just go overnight from one way of being to another. It's a gentle unfolding. So here's the question. How do we actually work with this phase instead of fighting it? Because we don't want to be someone who is planting seeds and then constantly digging them up and seeing if they're growing yet, right? We know if we do this, nothing's going to happen. So here's 3 practices that can support you through this phase. The first one, I want you to guard your energy like it's your fucking job, because it is. A seed won't grow in toxic soil, right? So we need to be really selective about what and who we allow into our space, how we are using our energy. The second is to trust in divine timing. Remember, nature doesn't rush, and neither should you. So when those doubt spirals hit, and they will, trust me, we all go through those doubt spirals. I want you to remember what feels like waiting, what feels like nothing's happening is actually preparation. You're building the strength and the capacity to not just reach your vision, but to maintain it, to be able to sustain it over the long haul. And then the third is to focus on what feeds your faith. Just like the gardener creates all the right conditions for growth, I want you to ask yourself, what nourishes my beliefs? What feeds my vision? And then make those practices a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. Here's what I love about this phase and what I love about nature is that a seed already has all the genetic coding it needs to become a fruitful tree. And a caterpillar already contains everything it needs to become a butterfly. And the same thing is with you. If you have a desire, if you can feel a desire in your heart, if you can see it in your mind, that means you already have everything inside you that you need to create it. That desire is not random. It's been planted in you along with everything that's needed for its fulfillment. It's just laying dormant until we create the right environment, until we're ready for it to sprout. Very often what happens is when we're in this silent phase, when we're in this uncomfortable phase where we feel like nothing's happening, our desires or manifestations or goals, whatever you want to call it, they're often right on the verge of breaking through, but we just don't see them yet. So here are some signs to watch for that show you're more on track than you might think. You might start noticing subtle shifts. Maybe you're responding differently to old triggers or attracting new types of conversations and opportunities. These are not coincidences. They're confirmations that your internal work is taking effect. You might also feel a new sense of alignment. This happens when the gap between where we were and our full potential starts to close naturally. Things that once felt like effort start feeling natural. This is not because the actions changed. It's because you have changed. I want you to remember, I say this all the time, manifestation is not about getting stuff. It's about who we become in the process. And then most importantly, you'll notice this deep inner knowing that's completely different from wishful thinking. It feels different. It feels different in your bones. You know the difference. It's like when you have truly mastered a skill. You don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to think about every step. It just happens naturally. And this is what happens when we step into that new version of ourselves. The new way of being becomes as natural as breathing. It's not about forcing or pretending. It's about allowing the truth of who you've become to flow through you naturally. And you'll find yourself responding to life from this new foundation without even having to think about it. I want you to remember, when your transformation is complete, when you step into embodying or having what you desire, it's not about trying to be someone new. It's simply who you are once you become that. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a subtle difference, but it's really important. So friend, I want you to trust the wisdom of your unfolding. Remember that if there is a desire in your heart, that's evidence that the potential is already inside of you. I want to remind you, the silent phase of transformation isn't silent at all. It's the most active space. It's the space between what was and what will be. This space is where all of your power lies, where all of the activation is taking place. So don't rush through it. Know that you're on the right track and trust in the process of your becoming. Okay, friend, I'm so glad you joined me. Like all my content, I like to keep it short, sweet, and powerful. So I want you to remember, if there is a desire in your heart, if you have a vision or a goal, or you're trying to manifest something, that potential is already inside you. It's coded in you, and you have everything you need to unfold it. Trust the process. Keep focused and keep steady on holding your vision of who you're becoming, and allow nature to do its course. Until we meet next time, friend, be well and keep manifesting an epic fucking life.